corner, theoretically you're supposed to take one pin out, which allows one wheel to turn on the axle. But of course, if you leave both pins in, all the old engine wants to do is go in a straight line. So anybody at the top end of the arena here will see these great gouges around in the ground, in the grass, and you'll see some type of a steamroller. The front roll will lift up on one side where the engine's trying to go straight. Really, you should probably take the other pin out, but on soft ground it doesn't matter. It sort of skids about and produces this interesting demonstration.
And we've got a barrel engine here which has got a load of local history because it's the present owner, who is Jeff Burgess, crossing hand, just up the road, back lane crossing hand. He acquired it in 1994. Again, repeating myself, a lot of work been done on this engine. Back in action after a complete rebuild. There were only 14 made, apparently, and about 4 of them survived, amazingly. It was built in 1916, where so much went on during the First World War, because we really used, at that time, the horses had all gone to fight. We needed something else. The tractors hadn't come in, and so steam really came into its own to take all the supplies down to the docks, if nothing else. Anyway, this one's called this one's, as I say, owned by the Burgess family, and it's called The Prince. Oh, so this one, you're on this one, you're on the wrong one, Brian. I thought you were going to be on Wilbur. A very good friend of mine and a great supporter of this rally, Brian Thompson, who is steering this engine, again in the ownership of the Burgess family. It's called Emma. Funny enough, so's his daughter. I think the engine came first. She's going to hit me, seriously. It's lovely, but the thing is, they rescued this from a scrapyard and it was nose down with the front wheels off. A job you think, oh my goodness, you know, it's too late to say. But no, they did. They put it back across in hand. Did an awful lot of work in their own workshops on this one. Again, apart from the boiler, put it all back together. And it has in the past won several prizes simply for the quality of the restoration work on it.
Another interesting detail about it, it was actually originally built as a steamroller, a very large steamroller, and it was used for a while like that. And the owners were so pleased with it, this is back, 1900, whenever it was made, they were so pleased with it and thought it would make a fantastic traction engine. So they sent it back to Aving and Porter, where they fitted it with proper traction engine wheels on the front, and they proper traction engine rims on the back and strakes, and you'll notice that it's still got its steamroller flywheel. It's actually a solid flywheel. Most traction engines have spokes, but yeah, it was decided it was a really good engine as both.
Yeah, Pensioner's going in front of me now, not the man on the wheel, not the driver, but the engine itself, called Pensioner. Built in 1919 again, just after the First World War. Claude Jessett had it 40 years ago. When the truss was formed and I first started to come up here, it was lying very forlornly in a shed which was pretty well literally falling down around it, which to this day is called Pensioner's Shed. Although it's brand new now, we've rebuilt it. But Pensioner itself has spent a lot of his years working in Sussex. It's a 7 horsepower expansion engine, but this is something that Brett would know more about. All I know that you've basically got single cylinders, compounds and expansions. The actual basic straightforward, it has to be said, steam road roller isn't a very efficient user of steam. A lot of steam goes up unused in exhaust, which is fine because it's water vapour, doesn't damage the atmosphere at all. But manufacturers over the years have tried several methods of making the steam more effective. One of those is compounding, which means that you have 2 cylinders, a high pressure, and then what's left of the steam goes not up the chimney but into a low pressure cylinder and is used again. But I'm not sure with the expansion thing. It's quite complicated because I think there's 2 throttles on there.
Yes, it's actually got 2 slide valves. So again, we're back to technology. The slide valve is what puts the steam into the cylinder, and it's basically just a flat valve that moves forwards and backwards, and it allows it to go behind the piston and then in front of the piston. And it has a separate exhaust in the middle of it underneath, like a D shape. And so you use the notches on the reversing lever to notch this up to save on water and coal, and then this works reasonably well. Well, Wallace and Stevens decided if we make 2 valves, we can notch the exhaust up separately to the steam. I think it's probably very good on a solid drive, so it's not up the road, but if you're running a thrashing machine, you can set the engine a lot more economical than you can your average steam engine. The other thing as well, I'm sure some of it was a bit of a sales gimmick, you know, oh, our Texas having badge gear on them, so making it more popular perhaps for potential customers. I'm sure if you speak to the people that have actually used it, I'm sure there will be a beneficiary to it.
That'll be interesting to find out. Up here at the top end, we seem to have our own personal gathering of steam engines, which I'm sure we should come across. But one of them is, the one I'm referring to, has got W. Turner Ardwick on the top, just so you can identify it. That's a public works contractor up north, near Manchester, I believe. It's now called Kathleen, and has been for many years, because Kathleen was owned by some friends of mine over Bexhill Way, and they brought it to the Festival of Transport, and I was commentating, and at that time single parenting my son Adrian, and I put him with this couple who were very lovely people, and I said, would you look after my son while I'm doing the commentary? And lo and behold, he came sitting in the coal bunker, happy as a sandboy, covered in coal dust, and he was converted. He was a steam enthusiast from then on, and he and his friend Jem now own one of the very engines. The owner of Kathleen used to also live next door to me at one point. Now, something I didn't know about it, I didn't know it was originally called Daniel Bruce. And so who the heck's Daniel Bruce? Well, he was the first steam engineer for a certain Mr. Brunel on the Great Western Railway. No, I didn't know that. Not a lot. Not a lot of people know that. I don't know whether they want to. Anyway, Ian Wilkie's now got it. He was up the road. I've got upfield, but he was at Down Ash, and he's now the sole owner of this engine. Sorry. And now we have what I thought would happen. It's Sammy Lou. Sammy Lou. Hi. Sammy Lou is within inches of. Yeah. Obviously enabling water engine, it's a green worming gig. Here's the green one, but no, doesn't make mistakes. There's one way of identifying. Another way of identifying the famous brand of Aveling and Porter is shiny. You see it on the front, what we call the headstock, just above the front rolls, and it's a prancing horse, gold prancing horse, and it's got the name underneath Invicta. Now, Aveling and Porter were one of the biggest employers in the whole of Kent. They were certainly the largest exporters of any manufacturer of steamrollers. They employed thousands of men, and they were allowed to use the flying horse or the prancing horse and the word Invicta, which is the insignia of Kent. If they still bring it across into Kent, across the Sussex-Kent border, the sign will say, "Welcome to Kent," and on it will be the prancing horse and the word Invicta. So they were given the honour of using that, thus the name of Kent went right across the world. Lovely to see it here today, as close as this.
And the word Invicta actually means undefeated.
Yeah, Invicta, indeed it does, undefeated. And it's been owned by the same owner, Barry, of course, for many years now, and he's always full of tricks, it went into preservation with Bill Hedges. He was quite famous preserver in 1970, but Barry's had it since 1989, and again, a bit of triggers through, new handle, new head, a lot of restoration work done on it to keep it going. The two eldest daughters, it was named after, and I know that they're both married now, but I remember, and I always say this for their embarrassment, seeing them as twins years ago being christened on the gallopers, these very gallopers are here today, but at the Lorton Country Fair, and now very much grown up, and I think Barry's now granddad, so there we are.
The engine that's next to that is a German-made engine, this grey one up here by the commentary box, and it's made by a company called Hemner. It's got a lot of very unusual features on it. You'll see that it's a lot different to your average English traction engine. This one, as David was talking about earlier, saying that the cylinders they have compound or a single, this one actually has 2 high pressure cylinders.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter where you have to start the crankshaft, the engine will always set off. It's a bit like a railway engine, really.
Yeah.
And this belongs to Michael, and an interesting development that he's fitted on it the other year was a superheater. So we not really hear much about this in the road steam world, it's more like railway locomotives, you hear have superheaters. And what this contraption does, it drives the steam. So there's a series of pipes inside the smoke box, which gets red hot with the heat, obviously, from the fire. And as the steam comes out of the boiler, it doesn't go straight into the cylinders, it goes through like a car radiator, a series of pipes in the smoke box. And it dries it, so any moisture, slight bits of dampness, get dried right out of it. So the steam that goes into the cylinders is bone dry. And I was speaking to Michael and saying, does it really make a difference? And he said it's unbelievable. It's a lot better on coal and water, a staggering difference. So this was an experiment of the day that you might think might be a bit pointless, but actually wasn't. This is a proof example of it actually working.
Well, there are other manufacturers in England that did this, but I know there's at least one example that tends to run it, but they tended to take the tubes for the superheaters out. It was more maintenance, wasn't it? That was the problem, I think. It didn't really catch, you don't see many over here, if any, actually still having superheaters, because they used to take that out. Even though it produced, let's say, a better performance, it also meant a lot more maintenance. The Kemner engine also has belly tanks underneath, literally underneath and either side of the boiler to carry extra water for when it's roading between, on the road between jobs. And another thing, it's got a little thing on the top there, looks like a bit of an old chip dryer upside down on the chimney. In actual fact, it's a spark arrestor. Obviously, if you're working with farmyards, with straw, hay, that sort of thing, or even going along through the fields in the countryside in those days where we used to have a lot more crops, then of course the sparks could set it alight. And so they often were fitted with spark arresters. Very much agricultural thing, that one. Yeah, for those of us who are a bit of steam engine nuts, Kemner, that's quite a different engine. It's funny we're talking about cylinders again, but when I was talking about Kathleen, when it's a steam is advanced, and so much to be said about that. It's certainly an advanced design, hence the name. It's twin duplex cylinder, so there's no flywheel at all. It's just going all the time, and it sounds completely different to an ordinary, any other one I've ever been on. It's just going chug all the time. It's very good. And of course the big feature of the advanced, and I think they've already mentioned it with Lucy right at the beginning, is that they were built when we were beginning to go from tarmac roads where you spray the tar and then put the chippings on the top, to asphalt macadam, which everything was in it, chippings and everything, the roads we're supposed to have today. Of course, when it goes forward, as Fred said, comes to the end of the bit, it's rolling. If it was tarmac, that's all right, you just put it in reverse. But if it's asphalt, it just stands there for even a couple of seconds. Then it starts to sink into the hot asphalt and leaves what we call a dwell, or what you now call a lump in the road. And you could literally sling it into reverse. It's designed for that, and literally goes backwards straight away without stopping. But I can't see for something, though, just a second. Well, that is a lot. We've got a lovely foam steam wagon in the ring here with the name Bishop's on the side. Did you see Rob Roy coming? The Rob Roy's here, foam traction engine, prize winner, very attractive looking engine, on loan at the moment to the Cross family over at Brighton. Recently on the London to Brighton run, sadly unable to finish owing to technical fault, as they say today, but it actually basically, they couldn't get the water into the boiler because the pump had packed up, which means that literally like saying you can't get petrol into your tank. So that was the end of that run, but they were on it, went up there on their own run. And then we've got this one that's right next to me now. Apparently one of only 3 of its kind. An HH steam wagon. I'm sorry, in my ignorance, doesn't mean a lot to me, but they built the Foden's, as we were saying yesterday. Yes, their traction engines are superb, heavily engineered, beautiful engines to run. A little bit more on the expensive side. Such things as double the number of spokes in the back wheel, made it a lot stronger and everything, but costs a lot more to produce. The Volkswagen on the left, the red one, built in 1929 and is entered by Jason James, who lives only up the road at Three Cups. Then there's a Sentinel steamer over there. Don't think that's in the program actually. Just let me check. Oh yeah, Super one, yeah. A Sentinel Super, 6-tonner. Built. They were the main sort of competitor to Ford with their vertical engine Ford lorries. Built new from Bellis Brothers in Wales. And then now entered today by Luke Rose, who comes from Canterbury in Kent. It's just in lovely, just poor basic plain green livery. A lot of them would be, they'd be sign written, nothing fancy. It was designed to do a job. And can you see from here, is it got pneumatics on it? I can't remember. It's got pneumatics. A lot of people say, oh, that must have been a later edition, but no. The point is with steam lorries, they were coming in the 30s and they could outperform any of diesel engines at the time. In fact, diesels were in its infancy. Petrol, of course, you could get, but there weren't many diesel lorries at about this time in 1923. And the other Sentinel, there was Jim Hatfield, the big six-wheeler, was built in 1934. And they used to run these as lorries right through to the 50s, when rather like today, the government was saying, no more new petrol engines, you've got to have electric or go bust, and they'll be tacked on the road in the later on this decade. They did the same with steam lorries. And I always think it was a bit of the fact there was a lot of lobbying from petrol companies coming in at the time, because they could go twice as fast as any of the lorries at the time. And when the Suez crisis happened, there's not many of us here left old enough to remember it, but just like today with the Straits of Hormuz, a lot of the oil was coming through the Suez Canal. It was closed because of a chap called Nasser, but he was the president of Egypt at the time. We couldn't get any fuel at all, and very quickly supplies ran out. They even reissued ration books like they did in the war. They come again, we just don't know what Mr. Trump and all they're going to do. But they issued ration books, and what happened? Some of these steam lorries that were laid up in the sheds, they brought them out again, and they were just doing the job they were designed to, right up into the late 50s. End of story. Anyway, what we've got here is too many engines really to have steam games. We normally do that, but we could, but getting them, we spent, they came in at 1 o'clock, it's now 1:45, so that's how long it's taken all these lovely owners and had to get them. Bear in mind that they've been putting the fire in and cleaning them up since first thing this morning, so to get them all ready for this parade. And it's going to take a long time to get them out. So we're going straight to the next part of the so-called timetable, which is an event called Width of Engine, which is quite a bit of explaining, but it's a very popular event and it's quite unique to this rally. We've got a metal road right through the middle of the arena, and of course it's got no potholes in it at all. It was done by our own volunteers with our own steamrollers. Nothing wrong with that, is there? But it enables us to run what is closest to traction engine racing, which is definitely not allowed these days, in case one of them goes out of control and kills tens of people. Now, I'm sorry, but sometimes health and safety does get a little bit over the top. These people are very professional at driving these engines. But it is an event which involves seeing how fast the engine can go. But not only just the speed, but judging the width of the engine against two poles, making sure you don't knock them over. Anyway, it might sound simple, but it's quite a bit of fun. And that's coming up, I don't know, as soon as we can. But we've got to say to all these engine owners and drivers, and they were here yesterday, in what was, if you've been here yesterday, if you're good enough to come back today, It was certainly a record-breaking temperature. We were well up into the 30s here, one lady with an umbrella said it was 29 in the shade. So, and I know just how hot it was. A lot of people, including Fred here, we were getting quite out of breath. Anyway, thank you to all these owners, and that, because they're what you come to see. They brought them here from a long way. Some of them on the road, some of them on from low loaders. Very expensive with the cost of coal. Obviously they enjoy it, otherwise they wouldn't be here. But without them we wouldn't have a rally, and this is the important part about this rally. It has to be said, 60 years of this rally, started by Claude and Joyce when they owned the farm, and it's always been in aid of cancer research. I think it was just cancer research, and now it's Cancer Research UK, and all people here, volunteers, all the people here on the trust are volunteers. And apart from the expenses which we've obviously got, cost of toilets, cost of insurance, etc., coal being the biggest cost, everything goes to cancer research. We're now approaching £500,000 over the years, £500,000 that is done. Of course, in the first years, it was just a few £100 because it was only about £1 to get in. Haven't things moved on, I'm afraid. You didn't pay £12 for breakfast in those days. Anyway, going back to this. All the money that you're using up here, whether it's on the fairground, the percentage of that goes, whether it's other things, it goes to the trust, and that all goes, every last penny, to Cancer Research UK. And I said yesterday, it is still, next to heart disease, the greatest killer. I'm sorry, it's coming down to the gloomy stuff, but it will happen in some way or other to most people on this site. It's a frightening fact. But the difference is, when you started coming in the 60s, if you got cancer of any sort, you had a very slim chance of ever recovering. Quite the reverse today. Most cancers are treatable, particularly if caught early. And there are many, many people, I'm sure, on this site today who can testify to the fact that they've been cured. Cancer Research is a charity. All this scientific research is funded, very little, like lots of other things, very little from the government, but from your own purse, coming to events like this. So it's great thanks to Claude and Joyce, who are no longer with us, but we carry on the tradition of giving everything to Cancer Research. So not only thank you to the owners and drivers of the engines for bringing them at their expense, but also to all you general public who come in and pay good money at the gate. So thank you very much. And with that, well, no, talking too much, I will give up and say, look, it's tradition on this stage, gentlemen and ladies, to give a good old Hadlow down symphony and give us a tune on the whistles before the parade goes out and we go to the winter venture. So if you've got children with you, it is advisable for you to cover their ears because it's a very high-pitched noise, and we don't want any young eardrums damaged. It's quite as I always say, it'd be lovely to record it. I'm sure we can, with modern AI or whatever it's called, we can edit it all and make it into a symphony. Okay, gentlemen and ladies, if you want to give us a blast on the whistles to celebrate this 60th rally, up to you. That's wonderful. Thank you very much indeed. I've been told, I'm sure it's right, that with the wind in the right direction, they clear this in Heatfield. I'm not too surprised. And they probably think the cookery line's reopened again. It's a steam engine going up. Anyway, thank you very much. We're not finishing. We're only just starting the afternoon. So I know our Marshal Ben and that they're going to get these engines back to the arena. The ones that aren't taking part in the judge and the width of engine competition will be going back to the steam engine enclosure in the next field. And I'm sure that, you know, the owners will be glad of a drink of one sort or the other. They can talk to them. Is that on? Not today. Oh, it's Sunday. I was looking. Thank you, the actual real commentator, Ray here. He was telling me that it's Sunday for that. Oh, so we've got. I'm looking at the Saturdays. Of course, we have Stephen on me. Right, so we're going, right, so that's why we need to get them out, because we've got the cars at 2:15. They'll be coming in again about half an hour later, a chance to steer an engine round this arena yourself, up there on the footplate, in charge, well the driver's in charge, but you'll be steering it round, and you'll have that experience of steering. You don't get on the railways unless you pay an awful lot of money. All you've got to do here is put some money in our collecting tin, anything from £1 upwards, and I must say yesterday we were very generous. We collected an extra £100 for cancer research yesterday, so that's about 4 to 3. So there'll be engines in there here for you to do that, and you come up and you queue up at where the commentary van where we're sitting at the arena entrance at this end of the arena, and somebody will be happy to help you up on an engine and relieve you of a couple of quid. Okay. Well, thanks to Fred. Thanks ever so much, because I couldn't have done it without you. And it's given the real commentator Ray a bit of a break, and he's going to do the cars next. Kevin, after Ray, Kevin, But it's Brian, it's Ray, every other time I say Ray.
I was Ray yesterday.
Why I've got the
Kenny today.
Yeah, I've got it in my, I hope it'll forgive me. It's just, I'm very old and it's very hot. And Peter Grading's just turned up, one of our worthy volunteers, and he's got